Hey, it's been an entire 2 days since you last heard from me. Let's talk about Run All Night. This is the 7th installment in the Liam Neeson with a gun threatening people on the phone series, which of course started with Taken, which was amazingly overrated, and continued with The Bourne Identity, that movie in which Liam Neeson sat around waiting for Maggie Grace to save him, that plane hijacking movie that just kind of gave up, a genuinely good movie, and Bagels, which incidentally is still number 1 on my worst movies of 2015 list. Review to come once it's released on DVD. So I guess you could say that I'm not a big fan of this series aside from A Walk Among the Tombstones, which I'm actually kicking myself for leaving off of my best of 2014 list. No, really, I use steel-toed boots and there's a pretty big bruise now. So how's Run All Night? Well, it's pretty decent, I enjoyed it. Stop looking at me like that. I enjoy movies. It transcended my expectations that I formed based on most of the past Leneweg Tip Put Put installments, and delivered an above-average action movie experience. The plot's nice and simple and involves no scenes of FBI agents giving up their pursuit of a murderer because of bagels. Slap that quote on a poster. Ed Harris plays a former mob boss turned legitimate businessman who is good friends with Liam Neeson, who plays a guy who used to perform hits for him. When Liam Neeson kills Harris's son to protect his own son, a very angry Harris gets every thug, corrupt cop, and hip-hop artist he can find to go after and kill him. Neeson and his son must title drop if they want to survive. Lots of action ensues as you would expect, but there's also a lot of character development stuff that you might not expect. Some of it works well. I like that Liam Neeson is not unstoppable hero man like in the Bagel series, but is actually a murderer who has done some despicable things and is looking for redemption. He's not a deep, multi-layered character or anything, but he's a pretty interesting protagonist for an action movie. What didn't work as well was the father-son dynamic. Neeson's son hates him for the things he did with Ed Harris back in their crime days. He doesn't want anything to do with him. Calls him Jimmy instead of Dad. I think this could have been handled better. The scenes in which they argue play out like this. So how's life, son? Oh, so now you're interested in my life? Yeah, like 20 years too late, Jimmy. I'm trying to save your life. Please don't be mad at me. Whatever, Jimmy, you don't care about me. You never cared about me. You just care about killing people. These parts are pretty cringe-inducing to watch, and the story arc is cliché and overly predictable. Thankfully, they didn't pull that thing where the son calls him Dad again at the very end. I hate that. As not good as all this is, it could have been worse. Much worse. This is a fairly positive review, so let's get back to the positive things. For the first time in one of these Leneweg Tip Put Put movies, I enjoyed the action scenes. They were more ambitious than they needed to be, given the fact that people just expect a few shaky cam fistfights from these movies. The shaky cam's still here, but it's restrained enough and there weren't cuts every 0.03 seconds like that horrible... No, save it for the Taken 3 review. Stay on topic. There's a car chase and a couple of shootouts that were quite well done. If the action scenes aren't up to the standards of, say, a James Bond movie, they nevertheless transcended the limitations of the low budget to be pretty impressive. The filmmakers seemed aware that Liam Neeson is kind of old, so they had his characters strategize and use his surroundings in order to beat the younger people, rather than having him just punch their throats. I like seeing that. But back to the bad things a second. Sorry, I'm just being overly negative like that. I don't think Ed Harris factored in as much as he should have. He's a villainous presence in the background pulling the strings. Classic Ed Harris. But he doesn't directly influence many of the scenes, and his final confrontation with Neeson is a little anticlimactic. He's set up to be more important than he ends up being. The flaws are all here, but Run All Night is well-paced enough to move quickly past a lot of them. The above-average action scenes and performances ensure that turns out to be a decent action movie in the end. It won't change your life, but I think it's worth a watch. I'm giving Run All Night a 6 out of 10.